are starting the stream right now. Let me flip back over to here. Okay, we are live with another system build. This system build is going to be a little different from the other ones. We are missing one or two components, but we will still build on because it will still test and will still boot. We're just missing pretty much the graphic card at this point. The customer decided to change their mind on a card, so they wanted to go, instead of AMD, they want to go NVIDIA, and that card is currently not here yet. So, but no worries, this build does have onboard graphics, so we can still build it, test it to make sure it comes on. We would still need to run another test for the VGA later, for the graphic card later. So at the current time, let me just go over the current specs. Let me bring this over. This is going to get in my way, sorry. Only way this gets working right. And let me switch it over. There we go. Okay, so we have a Ryzen 5, 5600G, Corsair 16 gigabytes at 3200 megahertz RAM, a Western Digital Blue 500 gigabytes NVMe drive, good for a workstation. Motherboard is an ASUS Prime B450M-all. I'm going to assume that's all, or A2. Oh no, it's A2. That looks like an L, but that's A2. So two I's in a way is two. Okay, moving on. EVGA for the power supply, again, is 650 watt bronze power supply. Case, we're using a Thermaltake H17. That case you guys have seen before. It's kind of the more minimalist case, but it is a bigger case that will be able to fit a graphic card or any type of upgraded card in the near future. So yeah, let's start building. Let's get right into it. What we're going to need, obviously, is you're going to need a pair of cutters, screwdriver, and some wire ties. And of course, my bag of wire ties has fallen to the ground, so that's why you see them loose. Anyway, let's start with the motherboard. So let me put the motherboard in place. Let's take the motherboard out of the box. And of course, it is sealed. And of course, my knife has gone missing. Did I use it to open the box? Yes, I did. I will be right back. Let me grab a knife really fast. Okay. Not too far. Here's the knife. So, you'll also need a knife to open the boxes. There we go. Let's adjust myself a little bit here. Okay. Opening the box, we have the motherboard itself. Get that out. CD, manual. Nothing we're going to really use there. I/O shield, of course, my friend. And I'm going to guess that's the M.2 screw and mini standoff. So I'm going to keep that off to the side. We're going to need that. We're going to build on top of the box. Oh, you also have SATA cables in there. Put the SATA cables off to the side, just in case we had a drive later on. All right. Board, I/O shield. Just going to put that up there. Out of the way for now. Board. This is the ASUS Prime board, which is not bad looking. It's got decent video on it. It's got HDMI, DVI, and VGA on the out, just in case. We're going to actually use the onboard video today, so it will be positive that we have it. I'm going to just prep the RAM sockets by opening them all up. Oh, see, this one does not have little clips like this on that side. They're just regular standard ones, so that's a little different. And you'll see when I go to put this in, it will not actually make a clipping noise. It'll actually just stay open. Welcome to everybody in the chat. I see a few happy faces. That's always a good thing. Let's unscrew, and we're going to just prep the CPU socket area. Take that off. We won't need that. We're using the stock cooler, so you won't need to do anything really special for the stock cooler. It's pretty much uses the same back plate piece here that is already in place. Why you're building on the board is because, on the box, is because if you lift up, that piece comes off. So that's no good for you. You're gonna need that on there. And it's harder to do that when you gotta hold it straight up. It's easier to mount this before you lift it off the box. Because if you don't, you're gonna end up fighting getting that to stay behind the board. So just build on top of the box. Do not build on top of, I didn't mention this before, but there's a piece of plastic that goes over, not really plastic, it's a anti-static bag that's on there. Do not build on top of the anti-static bag. In the anti-static bag is anti-static. On the outside, it could have static. You don't want to have that happen to shock out your board or any other parts or components. So try to just be careful of that. All right, so moving on here. Box, nothing special. Garbage. Manual. Garbage. Doesn't really explain how to put the CPU in, I don't think. It just explains don't bend the pins. CPU fan. This is going to be the cooler that's going to go on top. I'm just going to take the plastic piece up and I'm going to leave it in the box. The reason why is because on the bottom, a little bit of dirt, wow, is, I'm not going to touch that. I'll get it off in a second. Is a pre-applied thermal paste. So you don't want to touch this with your fingers in the middle. I'm actually touching the heat sink, but in the middle, in that square, is a very thin thermal paste. You don't want to actually disturb that with your hand. It will get on your hand, and you will not have a good day getting that off of your hand. So either leave it in the box or leave it flipped upside down with the fan blades down. Take that out. Processor. So while we're waiting for the, while you're doing this, you're going to put the processor in. The processor, you're going to line it up with actually, first, before we even do this, be very careful. There are pins on the opposite side of this. So you don't want those pins to be bent. So try not to, leave this on the table or anything. Leave it in the container until you're ready to push it in. What you want to double check is where the arrow is. In this case, the arrow is all the way to the upper left corner of the socket. And I'm positioning the processor the same way. The wording is going downwards, but you see there's an arrow in the upper left corner. The upper left corner, you just match the arrows. Make sure that the socket is fully open. Drop the CPU into the socket, but it should be, when I say drop, I'm talking maybe less than 1 millimeter off the socket. You just let it, slip into place. It should go down by itself. You shouldn't have to put too much pressure on it. I usually just put one little finger on here just to make sure that it stays in the socket and close it down. Again, very gentle. There should be really no force here. If you are forcing, don't. You're doing it wrong. You're going to bend a pin and you're going to destroy your processor or the motherboard depending upon the situation. Maybe even both. Toss that garbage. Okay. Now at this point, what you want to do is you want to put the CPU fan on. I'm going to try to get this off of here without making too much of a mess. There's a little bit of dust. There we go. I don't want to touch it with my finger. There's a little bit of dust on there, so I just kind of wipe that off. Now the CPU fan gets installed one way only, and that way is the correct way, which is not this way. This way is incorrect. This is going to block your RAM socket when you go to put it in, and you won't be able to use that socket. So you're going to flip it over the other way, and you're going to line up these little screw holes with the screws on the bottom of the fan. Again, do not touch the middle of the fan. If you do touch the middle of the fan and you happen to get thermal paste on your hands, immediately wash it off. And you're gonna have to reapply the thermal paste. The other video last week, I went over how to apply thermal paste and how to clean it and how to put the new thermal paste on. So if you have to do that, go back and watch that video because that's not being covered today. Screw this in. What you're gonna do is screw in one corner and then you're gonna go to the opposite side corner. If I can see, there we go. And you're gonna screw that one into the motherboard. Now you're gonna do the same thing over here onto this side. Screw it in. It may make a little bit of noise, that's okay. It's the springs, they do make some noise, so. All right, you can lock it, it's good. That little vibration noise that you're getting is because my screwdriver is set to 17 for the stop. That means that it'll only pull to a 17, marker. It won't go any further than that. So at that point, when you have it on 17 like that, you'll hear that little vibration that comes back on the screwdriver. That's normal. That means that you have stopped screwing in so that you don't go any further. Now at this point, you want to connect the CPU fan. That's going to be going down to the CPU header on the motherboard. I'm going to move this a little closer to me so I can actually read it. It does say CPU fan right here. So it's the bottom one on this board. There's also another one on top. The top one says chassis fan 2 or CHA fan 2. That means chassis fan. That is for your internal airflow fan if you have one. This case doesn't have an intake. It only has an exhaust. It's up to you if you want to add one. Most systems don't really require a lot of fans. If you want, you can. You don't have to. Zapping thing, yeah. So someone said ZZZ or zapping something never is a good thing. Yeah, you don't want to be. You don't want to get electrocuted. Let's just say that. All right, so let's get onto RAM sockets. So let's get to the RAM. Let's put the RAM, and the RAM is here, Corsair Vengeance, one of my favorite companies here because they actually have a good product. You can actually almost build an entire computer out of Corsair parts. I think the only thing you can't build out of Corsair parts is the motherboard and processor, maybe? That's about it. Everything else I think Corsair has. Does Corsair have a NVMe? I'm pretty sure they do. I'll have to double check. But yeah, pretty amazing if you ask me. All right, so let's take all that stuff out. Plastic comes out. Take one out of the socket. So take one out of the socket. What you're gonna do is you're gonna also take off this little label they put on here. Not label, I'm sorry. Plastic cover piece. You wanna just take that right off. You don't want that on there. You don't want that flying around in your system. Usually it doesn't come off, but you never know. Okay, let me put the RAM down for a second. So the sockets for this board are of course different than every other board that we've done because it's a different board. So it says DIMM A1, DIMM, which is this is one, DIMM A1, DIMM A2, this is B1, this is B2. So it is color coordinated, so you got black, gray, black, gray. So what you're gonna do is with 2 sets of RAM, you're gonna fill in 2 sets of RAM, one separated apart. So it actually says here directly on the motherboard, DIMM A1, DIMM A2. Now for some strange reason, A2 has got a star next to it, so I'm gonna assume that's gonna be the first one that's gonna go in. And then B2 also has a star. So we're gonna use the gray sockets and we're gonna put that in. And hopefully that's what it wants to do. I'm putting it on the side that doesn't have the clip facing it, so it's a little easier to push in, but make sure to line up the notch on this memory. It only goes one way, and it'll only click in one way. If you're pushing, again, way too hard, or it's not sliding down into place, then you know that you got it the wrong way. Flip it around, and then try again. So, same thing, same process. You're gonna take the plastic off the RAM. Take it off, make sure it's removed off to the side. And then you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna put the memory in the same way, except it's gonna go into a gray socket on this board. And then just slide down. And you should hear it click in place. Slide and click in place. Again, I didn't push too hard. I know it looks like I'm like pushing really, really hard. I'm not pushing really, really hard. It's very, very gentle on these type of maneuvers, all right? At this point, we're not using the other two RAM sockets, so I'm going to close the clips, just clip them up. And now we're going to do is the NVMe. So this is the hard drive for the unit. And let's see if it's open. No, it's not. There we go. So this is a 500 gig. Most workstations are usually doing 500 gig right now, unless they have data hoarding or something and they really want to keep everything. Then you go into the terabytes. NVMe I think goes up to 2 or 4 terabytes right now, as of right now I think. Manual. Don't need that. All right, this is really wrapped in a lot of plastic. Stop that. The NVMe out. Okay. Now, on this board, they didn't put any of the standoffs here. They're expecting you to do that. So I'm going to take this, put this back on the little holder, just for now. And I'm going to take, they did include the screw and the standoff in a little plastic bag. Okay. All right. Put the screw out here so I don't lose it, which I'm going to probably do anyway. All right, this screw is very, very, very small, so be very, very careful not to lose it. The standoff is also very, very small. I'm going to be choosing the one that basically fits this drive. This drive, if you're wondering what it is, it should be marked on here. It says M.2, can't see that, M.2 2280. You'll have to take my word for it, it's a 2280. And what you want to do is you'll match that on the board, which is right here, 2280. You put the little screw into there, which will screw in the standoff. This is for the drive to rest on, so when you go to put the drive in, you have something to attach it to. Let's put the drive in. Drive is going to go in on a 45-degree angle, and then laid down into there, into the standoff. Now, to get that in, you're going to need a very small screwdriver. I do not have a small screwdriver there, so I'm going to use my iFixit kit, which has a really, really small, I think this is Phillips. Yes, very small Phillips screwdriver, which has a very, very small bit. My regular screwdriver does not have that. Okay, going to position it on there and then put it into the standoff and screw down. I recommend you get an iFixit kit if you want, or you can get any screwdriver bit, but if you do, you're going to need to get really small bits like this. That is really, really small. I know it's kind of hard to see on the camera because I'm literally like 1 inch from the camera here, so this is really, really small. Their kits are not that expensive and the bits are really well made, so I recommend them, but you can use anything you want just as long as it fits the screw type. So that's all you're going to need for the iFixit kit. You're not going to really need small screws anymore after that. That's garbage. That's garbage. Okay, motherboard is assembled. There's nothing else to do here for the motherboard. Just to kind of go over things. Just the sockets that you may want to know about and the connectors that we're going to be connecting to. Obviously, this is for where your GPU is going to go, which is the bigger socket, and then you have add-on cards that you can put in. If you have SATA hard drives, they would be connected here or here. There's a lot of SATA connections for this board for some strange reason. Yeah, I/O on this is pretty straightforward. Yeah, the other way. I/O, you've got your VGA, your DVI, your HDMI, bunch of USB ports, USB port, USB port, USB port, different types. This is obviously USB 3.0, and this is probably 3.1. And you also have your Ethernet, your sound, and a PS2 port, which is a little old, but I guess some people still have those keyboards. Oh, and you have your HDMI connection for video as well. On the other side here, for the board, you have a lot of different connections. So that's all SATA, that's your main power. This is your 12-volt rail, which is also your smaller 8-pin connector. You have a CPU feeder, a case fan, and another case fan up here. We're going to be using this one because we only have an exhaust. Other connectors down below, we have the front panel connectors, which is right here. This is the little block that you have to fill in. And you have also a USB, I think this is 3.0? 3.1? I don't know. We'll have to find out. I think that's 3.0. And then you have a speaker connector on top if you want to connect to your speaker. You have USB 2.0, 2 different headers. And then you have a communication debug. Communication debug port, which is kind of cool. And also a COM port, which nobody uses. And then you got audio front panel. If you have a system that uses like Linux or something like that, then you would use probably the serial port at some point in time. But for now, we really don't need to use that. If you notice, I've been picking it up by the CPU cooler because it is really well attached. So I'm not too concerned. It won't break the board either, but I wouldn't go sitting here shaking around all the way. I would just keep it where it is. This is done. So we're now moving on to the case. I can actually see it. Okay, well, someone said they can actually see all of the little connectors. Good, because I think this overhead camera sucks. So I'm hoping to maybe get a better one later on with more autofocus, because right now I'm going to sit here and focus it, which is not a bad thing. It's just rather annoying to do. Case. Wait, this case is... All right, this case is a little bigger. Sorry about the overhead here. Let me flip back to this for a sec. I'm just going to take the ends, I'm going to take the case covers off, and I'll show you guys the ports on the top also, just quickly. I don't think I showed them last time, and somebody was kind of curious about the top, so I will show a quick picture. This case is very minimal, so it's not a very flashy case, but it's also very inexpensive for what it is. You're getting a really solid case, really solid metal. If you noticed, even when you click this thing off, it's kind of heavy. That's a really good thing to have a heavier case, because at least the case is designed really well. Just in case somebody kicks it or it falls over or something, you're not going to have to worry about all the parts getting damaged. Probably only some of them. All right, so we got this here. This is the top view. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. So if we just do that. There we go. So power button, you got USB 2.0, 2.0, and a 3.0. And then you got your hard drive light, your reset, and your audio connectors, which is microphone and headphone. So headphone out, microphone in from the top. I wouldn't use these. These are horrible. Every case, they're not that great for sound. They're okay, but again, they're not great. So I'd probably use the ones on the back of the case where it's more direct, and you also don't get much noise or anything like that. On the back here is where you're going to find the screws. Last time, actually the last few times, I keep forgetting to take this off. So, and then I gotta like do it from underneath, which is not a very fun thing to do. So I'm gonna do it now and not drive myself nuts. So I'm gonna take that off. This is all the screw bag that comes with the entire case for all the screws. It comes with the wire ties. Let's see. So we got a bunch of wire ties, nothing really fancy there. We're gonna just use those later. And all the fun accessories. No, it's not really an accessory. All right, we got the speaker. The speaker actually comes with the case. I don't plug this in. It's annoying, so we're gonna garbage that. All right. If you want to plug it in, you can plug it in. Again, I was explaining, I think 2 or 3 videos back about the beep codes and stuff like that. you can use that to determine like, you know, problems that you're having with the system. To if you actually have a problem with booting or anything like that. I don't know why I'm taking these out. These are the wrong ones. So, you know, they're even labeled, and I just literally just took it out of the bag and I didn't even bother to look at that label. Okay. So this one says used for 3.5-inch hard drives. We are not doing that. So we don't need that one. Used for 2.5-inch SSDs. We don't have any of those. We have an NVMe drive if you're wondering. And then this is the screw bag for the regular screws for like the motherboard and for, well, pretty much the motherboard is pretty much all we need out of this. It also has extra fan screws and stuff like that. I'm going to take out my iFixit kit here and use the top for a tray. Somebody said, yeah, going from underneath can't be fun. Yeah, it really isn't, especially when you're trying to hold the motherboard in place while you're doing that. It's just, I mean, as a new person, I wouldn't do it at all. I would have took the motherboard back out and did it that way. But as a person that's already done this before 30,000 times, it's not that bad, but it's just more annoying because it shouldn't have to be that annoying. Okay, so we got standoffs. These are like the motherboard standoffs, and then we got the small screws for the motherboard standoff, which are these little ones. Just trying to group them here a little bit, even if I don't need to group them, but you know, just to give you an idea. And there's another standoff. These are also screws for, you can probably see them up there. Screws for the fans, if you have extra fans. These thicker screws are for like power supply, or sometimes they use, well, the power supply comes with screws anyway, so you probably don't need these, but these are extra for either the power supply, or they could be used for the back panel where you're putting down cards. There should be already a screw there, but most people lose it or something. You'll end up with a little bit of a headache for that. All the rest are motherboard screws. These are not, these are all the same. The motherboard screws are also interchangeable for if you actually have a CD-ROM. This system doesn't have a CD-ROM because there's no front panel. It's all solid in the front panel. There's no holes. So yeah, there's no need for a CD in this case. But then again, most people don't have CDs anyway at this point. CDs are kind of, you know, we're loading all of our media through USB or downloading it at this point. So there's really no need. If you really wanted a CD player, or a Blu-ray, let's say, somebody wants a Blu-ray, I recommend an external one. Because then at that point they last longer, they don't use so much power, because if you disconnect it from your case, it doesn't use any power. They don't die as fast either, because if you have them in the case, they're powered on all the time. So, you know, every time you turn your computer on, it has to go through that and it has to check that part of the system, and that causes more problems later on. All right, so anyway, getting off topic, let's go back. Let's take a look at the wires here. The wires that are coming out of here, these are very long. These are USB and audio. So USB 2.0 and audio connection. By the way, if you notice, there's two ports, but there's only one wire. And that's because they're both wired to this one block. So this one block handles those two ports, okay? So just in case you guys don't understand, like it actually uses one, it does both. Same thing here with the USB 3.0. 3.0 is only one connector up there, but if it did have two, it could actually go into the same connector and use the same connector on the motherboard. This one's a little different. It's got little thin pins. That's really, by the way, these are the ones that are very dangerous. When you go to try to pull them back out, you'll end up probably messing up your board. I separate them out. I separate them by the thicker wires first, and then the thinner wires are all the front panel connectors. The front panel connectors are the power switch, reset switch, hard drive light, and the power light. Hard drive light is denoted by HDD LED, and power light is denoted by, oh, it does say power LED. So there you go. The only ones that make a big difference are the ones that are LED. LED ones have a little positive, negative symbol, and they have to follow that suit. The switches do not matter. So the switches, you can put them in any direction, and they will still power the system or reboot it. CDs are kind of obsolete, yes. Even Blu-ray is kind of obsolete. I mean, most people are streaming at this point. You know, they're streaming video, they're going to be streaming down. Now, some people may want for their like main systems, like a Blu-ray player or like for their TV and stuff, but I don't see it for a computer. I just don't see anybody really watching a Blu-ray on their computer. But then again, I'm not everybody, so maybe some people might do that. You know, I just think it's kind of weird. All right, so we're gonna tie these up. Let's just tie up. I'm just gonna use the ties that came with this. So you can just tie these up, use them up. I'm just gonna tie them and group them together. I'm not gonna tie them down to the anchor points yet. There are some anchor points here, 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 there. So all of these are anchor points. I'm not gonna tie them down yet to that. I just wanna group them together, and then I'm gonna put them in once I get all the cables in the proper spots. Then I'll anchor them to the actual case. Now, if you wanna proactively anchor them to the case, that's fine. I just gonna tell you right now, you're probably gonna end up cutting them and having some issues there. Where's my cutter? There's my cutter. Okay. And you know, instead of doing that, you want to get them to where they're supposed to be first, and then, you know, go from there. Not what I'm doing. I'm just doing some wire ties. I'm tying all the way up at the top. I'm not going to move the case just to do that, because this table's kind of small, so I'm just going to tie up here. But it's the same thing. Repeat all the way down. Just get them grouped. You know, a little bit of cable management now saves you a hassle later. So if you're an experienced builder, you'll know for a fact that doing some cable management ahead of time and knowing where the cables are going to go do help. But sometimes you just don't know the length of exactly how much cable it's going to be needed. So that's best to wait until you're about to anchor it. Then you're just pulling back the slack onto this side of the board. I'm just going to cut these, cut the tails. When you're cutting the tails, be careful of your fingers. And be careful of the wire. Do not cut the wire, obviously. Tails are garbage. All right. Now, so we're going to now put this in here. Put that in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the motherboard next. So that I just tuck these cables into the empty area down here. So when I flip the case over, it stays inside the case. If you're doing this professionally, you probably would not lay the system down like this. You'd probably have the system upright, and you can just see both sides of the case quickly and get things done a little faster without having to rotate as much. But for demonstration purposes, we're doing it downwards, okay? All right, let's put those cables back. Oh yeah, okay, flipped over. Of course, the cable still fell out anyway. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Pretty empty. Let me move myself over here. Okay, so the motherboard goes here. The I/O shield goes over here. This is the back of the case. This is the front of the case, just to give you an idea, since I've been moving things around a little bit. If you have 2.5-inch solid state drives, you can put them there. It's also labeled SSD. I don't know if you guys can see that. I don't have a flashlight today. All right, so you're gonna have to you have to just take my word for it that it says SSD there. It also says it here, and it also has a 3.5-inch drive bay that you can use down here that can also slide in a hard drive down there for like the bigger drives. All right, I'm gonna do the I/O shield now because I'm already starting to forget it and I'm already starting to panic. So let's not do that. And let's actually take the I/O shield out. I/O shield. Okay, this I/O shield has a little bit more stuff on it. Still, there's no bendy pieces. I think they've gotten rid of all those. Oh no, here's one. See, like this little doohickey thing. You gotta push this up a little bit, bend it just slightly up. You should probably use a tool for this and not use your fingers, because these are sharp, so just be very careful. This also has a reset button. All right. There's a permanent reset button on here. Things like this, where there's a through hole for a reset button, where the button's going to come through, you're going to have to double check to make sure that when you go to put this motherboard in, that button goes through the hole. Because if it gets depressed and gets stuck, your system will always continuously reboot because it'll be pushed down. So let's not do that. I/O shield goes this way, pushed up that way. How do I know? Because of the audio, this is the video down the bottom, and it's always at the bottom, so this goes right side up. So let's push that in. It should just pop in. Not too much force. If you're giving too much force, again, you're doing it wrong. So don't do that. It should just pop straight in with no problem. If it does give you a little bit of pushback, make sure to use the corners. Don't push in the middle of the thing, because you're going to end up bending it, and it's going to make it harder to push it back into the case. At this point, I'm going to get the fan connector out of the way. Fan for the back. Get in there. There you go. I just tucked that away just so it's out of the way for now. We will use it. Okay, we're about to mount the motherboard. So, little things to think about. You're going to have to think about all these stands, where they go. Make sure that they're in the right spots. So we're going to take the motherboard, bring it over, and we're going to start counting up the screw holes and double checking where everything goes. So, are we changing anything? You know, I've been lucky so far that I have not had to really change a thing. No. Okay, so they're all lined up. I don't have to change anything, but you really should count these up. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to have 6 attached. I'm not attaching these at the end. If you want to do that, you can. I don't have any SATA connections or anything really sensitive over here, so I'm just going to leave it the way it is. If you want to put a few extra standoffs in there, you can do that if it supports it. I don't think this case actually even supports it, so I'm going to line up the I/O shield in the back, making sure that nothing is getting stuck. That reset button, I told you. It didn't want to go all the way in. There we go. Okay. So, nice feature until it gets in your way. Okay. Is that locked? Yes. What? Why are we missing this one? Are we missing that one? Why do they make black standoffs? Can't see it. All right, no, that's there. Okay, it's there. All right, so just make sure that they're all there. You're gonna screw in all the screws. Can you guys even see this? The other way. That's a little better. Okay. I usually start right here in the middle, just so that it holds everything together. I'm also used to building with the case upwards. When you're building with the case upwards, you always want to go to the one in the middle. Easiest one to grab, easiest one to get the first screw into, so you don't have to worry about all the rest of them. So screw in. If this is your first time, do not use an electric screwdriver. Use a regular screwdriver. Just in case you start to thread the screw wrong, you will feel it and know it, and you will not continue. You would, rethread the screw the opposite way. Okay. Just go around the motherboard until you're fully finished. Another little word of advice. How I figured out that I have enough stand-ups and everything is that these screws only line up a certain direction. So if you have screws up here that are, to the left and to the right, they also line up from here to the bottom. So if they're all in a row, you've got the right ones. So that's what I'm doing. Now these are not in the same row, but it is in the same row as these at the top. So I know that if I can see this one here, I know that the other one is a little bit over. It makes it very easy. There's only like 4 or 5 standards here with the motherboard, so you don't have to really worry too much, getting the right one or getting the right screw set. But just make sure you don't have any screws that, more standoffs than screws, because then you might have a standoff that might be grounding out your board, and that would be really bad when you go to turn it on. It will be a bad day for you. Let's just put it that way, okay? Let's not have that happen, and just make sure that, you have the proper amount of screws, proper amount of standoffs. I want to pull these damn things out. There we go. Now, this comes wrapped. I'm going to do the CPU, not the CPU, I'm sorry, the case fan. The exhaust case fan has these little wire ties on them that are metal, you have to take these out of the case, toss them, use a regular wire tie that's plastic and it doesn't have any metal on it. Let me just turn this over a little bit, and then this is going to be tied to here, and that should be enough, yeah. Okay, so wire tie. And wire tie with a regular plastic tie, not ones with metal. If you have other metal ties, do not use them on the inside of a case. You could use them exterior, just don't use them on the inside. Because if you have metal, let's say if that hits a fan, hits that plastic fan here, and it starts shaving off that plastic, then you're gonna have a piece of metal hanging out in the inside of your case. And that would be really bad, because then you could short out your motherboard, you could short out another component. It will not be, again, a very bad day for you. Power, this is, what am I doing? It's going down to the chassis fan. Okay, there's one chassis fan connector right here that I am plugging in the fan connector. It only fits one way. If it doesn't go in nice and snug, then you have the connector the wrong way. You may have to check. This is a 3-pin fan, but a 4-pin header. So there's going to be one pin that's missing off of it that's not going to be used. So you want to check to make sure the plastic's the right direction before you slide it in. If you're pushing too hard, you're doing it wrong. It really should be really easy to push in. I don't know if I could tuck this under here. Let's try tucking it under. Yeah, we can tuck it under. Okay, cool. Just want to keep the wire out of the way. I just tied it up, just pushed it back. If you're concerned about that, you can also tie it to the fan if you want. There's little tie holes there if you really want to tie that in. I personally don't want to do that, so it's fine to push it underneath there. Let's do the headers before. Instead of one or two builds, I decided to do the power supply first. I found that seems to be more annoying. So we're going to do the front panel headers, and then we're going to do all the USB up top here, power button, all that wonderful stuff. We're going to do that first before we do the power supply, just so that when we put the power supply in, it'll be easy without any problems. Ooh, there we go. Okay. I'm just flipping it over. Okay. So there's some grommets here. Not grommets, I'm sorry. Little hole, push through holes. Actually, they're kind of grommets, but they're not really grommets because there's no actual grommet, that piece that fits in there. But they're the little holes to push through, little pass-throughs. So I'm going to pass through the front panel headers through the first hole. Through the second hole, I am going to push the audio and the USB 2.0. I believe USB 3.0 was on the front part of the case, so I'm going to push that all the way there. Push all the slack out there first, so that everything is just pushed out there. We're going to pull this back later, but right now, just push it all back out there so you can easily reach everything. And now you're going to flip it back over, holding the cables, hopefully. I don't like holding. This is, again, the reason why we build the other way, because you don't have to do a lot of holding of the cables. You won't have to contort your arms in different ways. You could just build it the way you want to build it. But for demonstration, this is a lot harder. So let's put this back down. Okay, you can almost see everything. Okay, so first I'm just going to do the USB. Actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do the front panel, power, LED, all that wonderful stuff first. Just get it out of the way. The reason why is because it's right here, and then the next pieces follow through. So I don't want to overlap. I want to get into things that I can easily see. So HDD goes first. By the way, it's labeled on the motherboard. So if you look really, really closely, there are some labels on there that say HDD, and it does tell you which way it goes, positive and negative, and you just line it up the same way and slip it onto the pin. Same thing. HDD reset is next to it. I always forget this order. I don't know why, because it's always the same, pretty much. All right, reset, then there's power switch on top. That one I remember. And then power LED to the left. The manual online will also have this, usually. So if you download the full reference manual, not the quick reference manual. The full reference manual will definitely have it. The quick, most of the time, doesn't have it. So you might need to go through the whole manual. I don't understand why, because sometimes the quick reference would make more sense for where this should go. But you never know. So, all right. Pin, 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 pin. Okay. That's all pinned down. Now, the next one over is USB 3.0. I'm going to pull this back out this way just because it's untangled from everything. So when I go to pull these back, it's not tangled with all the rest of them. This only has a little notch here. That little notch just matches to the notch on the port that's on the motherboard. So just line it up, and you should gently be able to push this in. You should hear it go click, and they're good. Again, push gently. If you're pushing too hard, stop, because then you're probably bending a pin, and when you bend a pin, you're gonna have a long period of time trying to fix all that. So let's not do that. USB is next, is USB 2.0, and that has got like a little, I don't know if you can, there we go, maybe little block that's blocked out here, and that makes it keyed one direction. So you're gonna make that, have that block meet the empty pin on the board, and you're going to just push that down on the board. And then audio front panel connector, same thing, got a little block that's blocked out. It only goes one way, and it goes right onto the motherboard. And here we go. So it should just push straight on. If you are pushing, and again, it's giving you a lot of resistance, then you're doing the wrong thing. Don't push, just pull it back and take a look, and maybe you might have it flipped the wrong way. All right, we're up to power supply. Yay. All right, by the way, this motherboard box, I'm just getting out of here, so it's a little easier to turn everything. All right. Yeah, let's flip this over. You don't have to flip it over to get to the other side. You have to go to the other side. Again, this is why we build straight up and down, not this way, because this is a lot more hard to move everything around. All right. Power supply. Okay, I'm gonna just take it out of the box. You know, for a person that doesn't do any unboxing videos, we unbox a lot of stuff. I don't know. Feels like I'm just doing unboxing. All right. Poor human. Okay. Throw this out. Garbage. Now. Box. Box. Oh my God, so much tape. You know, they secure this power supply so much, but the motherboard gets one little sticker. Yeah, welcome to the world of weirdness. Okay, so manual, if you want, you can read it. Okay, so we got modular cables. This one's actually a modular, it's about semi-modular. So these are the accessory cables. These are going to be like your SATA connection cables and stuff like that. We're probably not going to use these. We're probably just going to tie them down here so the customer has them in the future. But yeah, we're probably not going to use really any of this. Wow, it has a floppy connector still. What the hell? And who has a floppy? All right, whatever. Maybe a tape drive. Maybe that's for a tape drive. It's the same power. All right, moving on. It comes with some Velcro strips. Don't use these inside the computer. Use them externally. They're fine. This is a power on connector, or in other words, it'll cycle your power on without the motherboard. You would connect this to your 24-pin connector on the power supply, and that will allow you to turn the power supply on without turning on the system. You would use this for custom loops or custom water loops. When you use a custom water loop, you're going to need the pump to turn on without the motherboard being on. So this will help you with that. You should probably save that somewhere if you do a custom water loop. I don't recommend custom water loops. They're just hard to do. But the screws are in there, so that's why I'm opening this up. But I'm going to put this off to the side for now. But if you do a custom loop, you'll need that. If you do a custom loop, you also know a lot more than what's in this video. Power cord. off to the side. That's for the customer. They're gonna need that. Garbage. All right. Box, garbage. We don't need the box. All right. Probably should have got a garbage can every time. Plastic on the seat, on the fans, and pulling off. Okay. Ugh. This power supply has this annoying piece of plastic right on the logo. So just rip this stuff off, and there's your logo. Make sure to take it off because you don't want that floating around in your case. I've actually seen this go into a fan on the power supply and actually melt. And then I had to throw out a whole power supply because I'm not opening a power supply to get the little piece of plastic out. And it was impossible because it would spun around and it landed on one of the capacitors down there and it smelled really bad. It was a real problem. So just take it off. Back of the power supply. You really can't see that, can you? There we go. Just regular power plug, on and off switch. If your computer doesn't turn on, we want to look to make sure that that's on. All right, now installing this, pretty simple. This is the bottom of the case. You know, the little feet. So it's the bottom of the case. This has a filter right here. Then it has also an intake. You're going to put the fan downwards. So it goes down to the bottom part of the case. So it pulls in air from the bottom of the case. This is the best way to, you know, because this basically is a separate chamber than up here a little bit. It's not fully separated, but it's separated enough, and it causes, you know, better airflow just to get the air, you know, cooler air into the case or out of the, or heat out of the case, depending on the situation. All right, these are all tied up. These are all basically the CPU connection. It says CPU, but it's the motherboard. That's the motherboard connection. That's the 8-pin on the top. This is the 24-pin for the power for the actual, for the motherboard itself. And it also has what they labeled here, PCIe, which is for the graphic card. We're gonna need this, but the graphic card's not here today. So it's on vacation. No, I'm just kidding. It's it's gonna be picked up later today. So we don't have that, but this is what you would plug into your PCI Express graphic card. Everything else, peripheral wise, and that's upside down. One more time, there we go. All right, peripheral wise, we got SATA 1, 2, 3, CPU 2, VGA 3, 2, peripheral 1 and 2. That's all these cables. So if you need one of these, you plug them in before you put the power supply in. They are keyed differently here than they are on the other side, so you really can't make a mistake. And it also says, yeah, it says BQ for, like, you know, going to the power supply. So that's it for the power supply. Pretty simple. We're going to slip it in right now. So let's go again, fan down, and just slide it in. Slide, there you go. Okay. Just don't drop it. Okay, slide it in. By the way, this is still so much more easier head up than downwards. You'd have a lot easier time getting that in there without too much hassle. Okay, power supply screws, there's 4 of them. If you screwed in 3 screws, then you missed one. Okay, so that goes on the back of the unit. They only line up one way, so if you missed a lineup, then you know obviously you have missed the screws. You may want to just start over. I'm not going to turn this because it's just a big pain to flip this over, but it's just 4 screws. They only go into the holes that line up on the bottom of the the back part of the power supply. There's no other way to set this up. There's only one way to set it up if you want to flip the power supply the other way, but the screws will still line up because they have the dual sets of holes in the back. So you could go either way on this. Okay, last one. Again, if you start screwing in with a screwdriver, let's say, and it's giving you a lot of, you know, pushback, then you're probably cross-threading the screw, so be careful, just back the screw back out. And if you're unsure or don't know how to prevent yourself from cross-threading, you would go the opposite direction until you hear it snap back into place into the hole, and then you would just go forward the other way, the proper way, once you hear it click back, and keeping the same amount of pressure on it, obviously, as you go, if you're using a regular screwdriver. Okay, you want to undo the wrap of cable pin. I'm going to slide it through this hole here, which is the second hole up. That's where the closest to where that is. That's going to go. Push it all the way through for now. PCIe I like to come up from the bottom. So I'm going to go through the first hole to the left, up through the bottom. If it lets me, there it goes. Okay. Again, the graphic card's not there, so we're just going to push the cable through for now. Just so it's up there and ready to go. When the graphic card comes in, we can just slide it into place without having to redo all the cable management. Now, CPU, that's going to go on the upper top corner here. I'm going to move this down, but top part of the case, this corner to the upper right. And that's basically the right of the CPU. So push that through. Just push all of it through for now. Again, you're going to bring this back when you're ready to do cable management. Let's flip it back over. If I'm not hitting anything. No, not hitting anything. Okay, we're good. All right. Okay. So, you're going to take these, line these up. You're going to obviously take the 4-pin for whatever reason. Some motherboards, I guess, still support without the 4-pin, but this one requires it. So we're going to put it together. We're going to make sure that this clip lines up with that clip. You're going to take the clip and clip it in until it clicks. So you're going to clip till it clicks. You got that? And of course, if I can get this lined up. This one's fighting me a little bit. It doesn't want to fight me. I know it doesn't. It wants to be my friend. I know. There we go. Okay. Wow. All right. Plug this in. Unfortunately, everything has a black motherboard on this one, so yeah, probably should have a flashlight, but I didn't bring one today, so therefore, probably a bad idea. What's in my bag has failed me today. Same thing. 8-pin up here. 8-pin up here. You want to again follow the clipping. So there's little clips on this side, and there's a little ledge or clip on that side, whatever you want to call it. So just clip, and click. And if I can see, would be even better. There we go. Okay. I was thinking I can do this in the dark. All right. Now you see there's a lot of cable going on here. And that's because of the graphic card. I'm going to pull the graphic card out right here, the graphic card cable. And I'm just going to pull that straight a little away from, shoot, I got tangled. Yeah, if anything gets tangled, go back and just untangle it. Don't go forward with it tangled. That's just a bad idea. And once it gets tangled here, you're going to have a problem when you go to do cable management. You're going to pull it back and you're going to end up pulling that cable with it, the other cable that was obviously tied up. I'm going to put this off to the side right now. So this is the PCI Express cable. It says PCIe. So we're going to leave this for the graphic card. I'm just going to tuck this over here for now, out of the way. But that's going to actually be pulled back when we're fully done. When the graphic card comes in, it's going to be slotted here. And it's going to go into the back pin. It's going to be slotted here. And it's going to be, basically using up these two ports here on the back panel. So, and that's where all your video is going to come out. Been on an hour. Soon over, might continue, been on an hour. Yeah, well, this takes a little while. So yeah, this is almost done. So we're gonna just do the cable management, then we're gonna boot the thing, and then we're done. So let me flip this over. Back over, we'll do the cable management really fast. It's just basically anchoring it down, so it shouldn't be that hard, and you're going to be pulling the cable back through the other holes. So here we go. Top, you're going to pull this back until it's taut, and then you want to put this down this side of the case. You have anchors here, 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 and here. You're going to screw those down. Not screw them down, I'm sorry. You're going to use cable ties. To get the cable ties underneath the anchors, I usually give this a little bend, so it goes and slides underneath and flips over. I'm going to repeat the process till it's all the way down. So put this in. Oh boy, get in there. All right, so again, pull the cable taut so it's nice and tight against the top. Don't pull it too hard to the point that you're going to pull it out of the other side of the motherboard or break something, but just pull it up so it, you know, the rest of the slack is up. If you're unsure, go back and look on the other side and make sure that the slack is up. I know when it's done, but you know, some people may not. So just look at the other side and make sure it's done. Now, this cable management is key, in my opinion, to keeping a machine very clean and keeping it very nice and tidy. You'll also know if somebody goes in your computer, because if it's not nice and tidy, you know that somebody was in there messing around doing something they're not supposed to be doing. So that also helps, but it's good to know that you just keep everything nice and tight towards the case. It's for your own purpose, because obviously this case does not have a window, so you will not be able to see any of this, but you'll know that it's been done. And knowing is better off than not knowing. So, you know, so tighten that down, pull, and then you got one more here. And then we're going to do the other side over here really quickly. And then we're going to give it a boot test, and we will be good to go. Hopefully it'll boot and we won't have problems. Okay, tighten, tighten, tighten. By the way, cut these last. Don't cut them right now. There's no need to at the current time. The motherboard one is a little bit bigger, so you're gonna have to pull a lot of that through, and then put that downwards. Tuck it into the bottom part of the case. This is going here for the anchor, and then the other ones are anchoring here, 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 and here. So this one's gonna anchor here first. I'm just gonna do this because this one is always fights me coming back. So it's a little thicker cable and it's a little harder to get in position. So I'm gonna do this one first. Put that down, tighten, so it's down onto the case. Now, I do the other ones, but what I do is I'm gonna put one more here because this is still popping up a little bit and I'm not liking that. So I am going to anchor one more. Okay. Stand over, push it over, click it in. Now, there we go. One more time, we're gonna do this. We're gonna keep this, I'm gonna keep this away from here just because you can see the holes from the other side of the case. So I'm just gonna tie it here, and that should be enough because it's now clearing everything else. We have enough run there, so I'm not gonna mess with going this way. I was gonna go that way, but honestly, after looking at it, it's gonna be in the view of these little cutouts. So this way, you won't see it on the other side. Again, this is something where if the system was upwards, you would be able to actually determine this easier because you could look at both sides and say, oh, do I see that here? Yeah, let's not do that and go the other way. Cut these, boop. Cut, cut, cut. All the way around. There we go. Do not cut your fingers. All right. The additional cables should screw down, not screw down, I mean cable tie all the way down here. I'm not going to do it right now because it's going to take me like 15 minutes to do all that. So just basically cut this, you put 2 wire ties on it, and you put it through the bottom 2 holes that are at the bottom of the case. And that straps it down so it doesn't move. If it's your case, zip ties, yeah, thank you. So someone said those zip ties. Yeah, I know, no, none of my technicians like me because I put a shit ton of zip ties. So, you know, whenever they got to work on something, they got to cut apart half of this to get it to work. But anyway, this is going to go down there, and you would also zip tie these little screws. I'm gonna do that last, but I'm not gonna do it now because I gotta like feed all this through, and that's gonna take a few minutes. And I'd like to just boot it at this point. So let's boot it up. Ooh, let me flip this back to me for a second. Okay. All right. So right now I got the PCI Express cable hanging out the case. That's okay. It's not gonna do anything. Just, you know, make sure it's not damaged in any way. Power, keyboard, mouse. Actually, we don't need a mouse. We just need a keyboard. Sorry, I don't have my fancy keyboard here today. So it's the other keyboard. The zip ties. Nobody likes my zip ties. I don't know why. You don't want to be my friend, do you? That's how it is. I see. See how it is. Nobody likes my zip ties. It's fine. Oh. I'm talking too much and I don't have an HDMI cable. 1 second, I'm gonna plug that one in because I think I took it out of, did I take it out of here? Yes, I did. I did take it out of there. Shoot. All right, right back. 1 sec. Not very long. Cable. Ah. Oh, that's a really short HDMI. Why don't I have an HDMI cable? Seriously today. You know what? I'm going to steal an HDMI cable from another system for right now because this is not working. Yeah, I know where it is. Okay. Let me grab this one. Plug that. That one over here. Okay, so what I'm doing is right now plugging in the HDMI into the back of the unit. That was basically where the I/O shield is. And the I/O shield has the HDMI connector. And I think we're ready to power it on. So, keyboard. Power, that's on. Got a light. Let's hit the main light on. Oh, let's go to 4. Turn myself on there. All right, powering up. Nothing blew up yet, so we're good. AMD systems do take a few seconds to power on, so be patient. The first boot always takes like the longest, so just wait. Few minutes. Hopefully not a minute. Let's see. There we go. Oh, I'm on the wrong camera. Shoot. All right, camera 3. Oh, right. I was on the wrong camera. That's fine. Whatever. So it boots. Let me go to the BIOS. To get to the BIOS, just hit the delete key on the keyboard and wait for the BIOS to come up. Widget. Or not. Come on. Boot. It's alive. Yes, it is. It's like Frankenstein. It really is. There we go. Zeus. Sorry, that was like really quick. All right, let me go to the BIOS screen. Is the oh, does not support this monitor. Come on, does it? What are you doing? There we go. Oh my god, that took way too long. All right, actually, that was weird. The system rebooted 2 or 3 times. Okay, so this is the BIOS screen. This is the beginning. I'm not going to go any further than this because really what we do is we just update the BIOS. We then load up Windows. Well, actually, we do a memory test first to make sure the memory is good. We set up the BIOS really quickly for the memory, and then we load up Windows 10 or 11, depending upon what the customer wants. In this case, 10. And that's it. I can't go any further than this anyway because most of it is just pretty much watching a progress bar. But if we were doing a graphic card, which we will be doing eventually, you would put the graphic card obviously in before you boot, and then you would boot off of that. This processor actually has onboard video because it's built into the processor. Some processors don't have onboard video and require discrete graphics. And in that case, you know, you would plug it into the graphic card. Power button on this, nothing really big of a deal. You know, I showed you guys before, you just push the power button and it lights up blue. So nothing really shocking, but that's about it. Yeah, cable management's done. Well, of course, you know, the cable for this PCI Express I would also pull back through the case when I'm done with putting the graphic card in. So let's flip back to me. Let me put this out of the way. Okay, so you know, this is build 5 of computers for customers. Actually, it's like 4 technically because we built one for ourselves. But yeah, basically, this is it for this system. I have another video that's going to be coming out very shortly on how to load Windows. That you may want to stay tuned for that, because it will go over how to create the USB flash drive. It'll go over testing of the memory. It'll also go over installation of Windows, configuration of Windows, and all the settings and the privacy settings as well. Now, we did have a live stream about privacy settings, so that's already available. I recommend you go check that out when you get a chance. And we hope to see in the next live stream. All of our live streams are usually done on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Those have the different topics. These are just builds, so builds come and go. So we do those during the week. But yeah, we hope to see you soon. Hopefully you subscribe. Make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like. You know, if you have a comment on anything, you think I screwed up somewhere, tell me in the comments below. You know, I'll feel free to let you know you're probably wrong. I'm just kidding. Hopefully you're probably right and maybe I made a mistake. So let's cut the stream. I'm going to power this off and we'll see you in the next one.